Good morning, everyone. My name is Valerie Hawes. I am the Organizational Workforce Development Lead at Goodwill Columbus, and I want to thank you for joining us once again on our workforce development page here on Facebook as well as on YouTube. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about preparing for an interview because I know that is an important thing. We have a lot of people. 50 million people are currently unemployed in this country. And so we know that a lot of you will not only be returning back to work, but maybe looking for new opportunities to explore, as well as just really jump into some new ideas and wanting to land the job of your dreams. So I want to be there to assist you with that. And so today I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on how to prepare best for the interview. So let me just pull up my presentation here and let's get started, okay? So with that said, let's go. All right, so the first thing we want to talk about is the fact that there are a lot of questions that are typically asked in an interview. And one of the main ones that jump out to me is, can you tell me about yourself? That's sometimes the one that stumps people the most. And I don't know why, because if you don't know anything else, you know who you are, you know your skills, you know what talents that you bring to the table. And so it's important for you to highlight those things. This is an opportunity for you to brag about yourself. Now, there are tons of other questions, and we'll go over those questions as well. But that "can you tell me about yourself" question, that can typically be answered in what's normally referred to as an elevator pitch. For instance, I sort of gave you a little bit of one when I came on. I'm the Organizational Learning and Development Lead at Goodwill Columbus, and here I'm responsible for employee training as well as overseeing job readiness boot camps that we offer. I have nearly 20 years of experience in training and development, and I have a passion for helping people achieve their fullest potential. That's a little brief elevator pitch about myself. You'll want to establish one for yourself. And in an interview, the one thing you want to do is start strong and end strong. So those are just a little tips to prepare for, but we'll go over more questions as we go. Let's move on to the next one. Now, it says the reasons for an interview. Of course, there's the opportunity for you to find out if you can do the job well. That's what the interviewer wants to find out from you. They're going to ask you questions to determine your knowledge and experience. They may even ask you to do some online testing or do some sort of demonstration. As a trainer, often when I am preparing for an interview for training, I also have to prepare a brief demonstration so that I can demonstrate, show the interviewer that I know what it is that I'm doing. So those are things that you can prepare for as well for the interview. They're also trying to find out if you fit in. How well do you communicate? And they're going to ask you behavioral and situational questions. We'll go over some examples of those. And they're going to ask you to describe yourself. We'll go over details about these things. And then also find out if you want to do the job. See, I always say that the interview is not just one-sided. It's for them to get to know you as well as for you to find out if that's the right job for you. You're finding out as much about that organization, as much about this particular manager, supervisor, the team, to make sure that you're going to fit in. They want to know that. You need to also find out those things. And they're going to ask you questions about your availability, your shift preference, your preferred work environment. They're asking you these questions because they're trying to see, are your goals in alignment with their goals? And they want to know, why do you want to work here? Are you just trying to get a check? Or is their mission your mission? So they're trying to match those things up. Let's go to our next slide. All right. Now, as you are preparing for the interview, one thing you're going to want to do is to do a little research on the company. You'll go to their website, and there may be articles, media that's out there online that you can also reference to find out what are some of the latest accomplishments that this organization has. In the interview, they're going to ask you, what do you know about us already? They want to know if you are truly interested, or did you see a posting, apply, got the call, and showed up. If you just did that, that doesn't demonstrate that you have a real level of interest for this job. So do some research, be able to highlight a couple of main things that they have done so that you can demonstrate your interest. Also, use that job posting or the announcement as part of your research. You want to make sure that you have studied it well. You'll want to make sure that in the interview, as well as on your resume, that you are highlighting some key words that they have mentioned in that job posting, because that demonstrates the language, the technical words that they use. And it also probably highlights their mission statement. So you'll want to emphasize how you are in alignment with the mission. And then you're going to talk and write like that job posting. That demonstrates that you can easily fit into the culture, that you are adaptable, and that you are also prepared for that. So let's move on. All right. Uh-oh, I went too far. Uh-oh, let's go back. Sorry about that. Okay, so there is a list of questions that are typically asked in every interview. I don't care what the field is. I don't care what the company is. There are certain questions that are almost always asked in the interview, such as, tell me about yourself and your work experience, which is what I stated earlier. What are your weaknesses? I don't like to say the word weaknesses. I think everyone has areas for development. But they will ask you, what are some of your weaknesses? They'll ask, why should we hire you? Why do you want to work here? What are your goals? Why did you leave, or why are you leaving your current job? When were you most satisfied in your job? What can you do for us that other candidates can't? See, when you have so many people applying for jobs, that means you're in competition with a lot. So you'll want to make sure that you stand out above the rest. And a lot of times that's going to be determined by the passion that you demonstrate for this opportunity. They may ask, what are your positive things, the positive things that your last boss would say about you? And of course, what are your strengths? So make sure that you pause this, come back to this video, pause this screen right here, jot down all of these questions. I always suggest that you write them down and you research how others in the industry, others that are applying for this same type of position might answer this question appropriately, and then follow that guide as you formulate answers for yourself. That's what's going to help you stand above the rest. But more importantly than anything, you got to practice, practice, practice. The more you do it, the more you read off those answers, the better prepared you are, and the less rehearsed you will come across, the more you practice. All right. Now, there are going to be some tough questions in this process as well. There are situational or behavioral questions that they're going to ask you. We'll give you some examples of those. But when you are answering those questions, we suggest you use what's considered the CAR technique. This is an acronym that sort of outlines the best way to go about answering these behavioral and situational questions, such as first starting with the context. What was the situation or the issue? Your action, what action did you take that addressed that particular problem? And then what was the result? And again, when you are answering these questions, you want to give a difficult situation that resulted in a positive way. Okay, so make sure that you had a positive result at the end. That's what's going to be key, okay? Now, it says answering tough questions if you have a criminal background. Now, there may be many people who are looking for a second chance, and we know that that can be very difficult to try to convince others that, you know, it's time to give you a second chance. But those that are willing to do so will need to understand three things about you. They'll want to understand what your responsibility was that you took. Did you express any regret for what it was that you actually did? And then what is the redemption? So those are what we call the three R's: responsibility, regret, and redemption. So again, responsibility. What was the offense, and are you taking responsibility for it? You don't want to go into the interview stating, well, it wasn't my fault, or I was framed, or if it wasn't for so-and-so, this never would have happened. No, that's not taking responsibility. So you'll want to take responsibility for whatever it is that you did. And then you'll want to express regret. Demonstrate that what it was that happened is not something that you're proud of, that you're sorry that it happened. And now move into redemption. What are the things that you have done since that offense occurred? Maybe you took classes. Maybe you were a part of a particular program that helped you in your growth. And that demonstrates, once you have demonstrated growth, that you're probably not going to go back and do that same thing over again. So you'll want to talk about what programs you were a part of, what classes you took. Maybe you got a degree. It doesn't matter, even if you were incarcerated. You'll want to talk about the things you did while you were there and the things you've done since then that have changed your life. Although it may be difficult to convince others, there are people who have open hearts, and there are companies that will give second chances. So with a little work, you can still find the job that you are looking for. Now, again, some of those tough questions in the interview are, again, tell me about yourself. I, again, don't believe that that is a tough question. If you really sit down and think about it, it might be the easiest one to answer, as long as you practice it and you make it solid, okay? You have a solid answer. That's going to be that first question they ask. Tell me about yourself. And then some of the other questions that may be tough are, why did you leave your last position? You'll want to make sure that you're not speaking disparagingly about your last company, because it never looks good to talk negatively about where you were before. An employer may hear that in the interview and think, oh, well, she'll probably badmouth us too if we don't give her what she wants, or, you know, no one wants to be in that situation. So you'll want to make sure you're saying something that's positive. Maybe you are looking to change careers. Maybe you have gone as far as you can go and you're looking for more opportunities for advancement. Those are positive things to share. Another question might be, why should I hire you for this position? In that moment, you'll want to highlight your passion for the role, as well as all of the different things that you bring to the table, the skills, the strengths that you bring to the table that make you stand out above the rest. Why is there a gap in your employment? Hey, there could be many reasons for gaps. Maybe you had a child. Maybe you decided to go back to school for other training. Maybe you were laid off. In the event that there was a reason for the gap, you'll want to demonstrate the things that you did during that gap that helped advance you and make you a better employee for the next role. So that's something to consider. Tell me about the time you had conflict and how did you resolve it? Conflict, everyone, is not necessarily a negative thing. Conflict just means that there are two or more opposing views. So every conflict isn't always a fight. However, you'll want to share a time when maybe you had an opposing view with a coworker, a client, maybe a different team, and how you all came together to resolve that in a positive way. Never leave that discussion with a negative, always with a positive. Again, you'll want to talk about your strengths and weaknesses, or as I mentioned before, areas for development, not weaknesses. And do you have any questions for me? Now, that's the one that is probably the easiest one to answer. A bad answer to that question is, no, I don't have any questions. Of course you have questions. I mean, there are certain questions that you can ask in every interview, regardless of who it is that you're interviewing with. Maybe the question is, so how soon before you'll be making a decision? Or what are the next steps of this process? What does that look like? You may want to ask them, what does a successful candidate look like in this role? Or what does a day in the life look like for a person in this particular position? There are several questions that you can prepare, have written down. And honestly, if you've done research on the company or you've done research on the role, there are questions that you can also prepare before even walking into the interview. I always suggest going into the interview with a portfolio. Maybe you have the questions written down in the portfolio. In the interview, you'll want to come in with your resume ready and available, enough resumes for everyone in the room and extras as well, but you'll want to also have a resume for yourself. You may be a little nervous and a little bit on edge when you go into that interview. So when you are sitting there, you can glance down and highlight, follow things chronologically that happen in your career, as well as have a list of questions written down on the side. Because as you've done the research, you can prepare those questions. Oh, one other thing. You always want to be honest in the interview. Don't make up answers. Tell the truth. And if you haven't experienced something that they're asking about, tell them that and ask them if it's all right to answer that question hypothetically, okay? Now, interview questions you should not be asked in an interview. Now, most HR people, if they are professional and prepared properly, they understand that there are certain questions that cannot be asked in the interview. These questions would be pertaining to race, color, and national origin, religion, sex, gender identity or sexual orientation, your pregnancy status, disability status, age or genetic information, your citizenship, or your marital status or the number of children that you have. They can't ask you these questions, and if they do, they are violating the EEOC policies. So make sure that you are aware of that, and if you have questions about that, you can actually Google that online, and make sure that you take note of it because that is a violation of the EEOC policies. Oh, I guess that's it. That's all we have. Let me remove that. I will say this, that we have a lot of things that we can share about the interview. Later on, I'll talk about more specifics about how to master answering questions, behavioral and situational questions. And I think when we have that discussion, you'll probably feel a lot more comfortable answering those, okay? But in the meantime, go check out our website, or actually our Facebook page that has a lot of information, a lot of articles and other videos as you prepare for the interview, preparing your proper resume, doing a proper career search. We have all sorts of good information out there. I suggest you check it out. And until then, until the next time we meet, you have a great day and happy hunting for that job. Contact us at, there's some information. Let me see if I can pull up the proper. There you go. This is a link that you can follow if you are interested in getting some assistance with employment. We at Goodwill Columbus can help you do that. If you are in the Columbus area, you are looking for a job, it doesn't matter what industry you're interested in going into, or if you are looking to develop more skills, whether those are digital skills that you're looking to develop, or maybe you are looking to get some certifications. We offer certifications in hospitality and lodging, STNA, as well as careers in technology. We offer an A+ certification and so much more. So please check out the Facebook page for more information on that as well. Again, until we meet again, have a great day and happy job hunting. It's been great. Bye.